All right. Hey, everyone. Sorry I'm running a little bit behind. Sorry about that. So we're going to get started quickly here. Thanks for joining me. This is Mark. Thanks for joining me for another GreenBridge Investing market analysis. In this session, I'm going to get into Bitcoin first, cover a couple of alts. I want to make that quick, and then take a look at stock market, take a look at gold, and then I want to spend the rest of the time on your questions. If you're new to GreenBridge, please make sure you press the like button. Also, make sure you register for the channel. Every time I do one of these streams, you get an email notification. And yeah, all right. So with that being said, also, if you're new to the channel, please share your symbol or the market you'd like to see in the chat now. So once I get to the chat, the symbol will be in there and I can go over the market you'd like to see or the chart you'd like to see. All right. So with that being said, let's get started. This is for educational purposes only. For investment advice, please consult a licensed investment advisor. Now, today's Monday. You know what that means. Before we get into Bitcoin, we got to take a look at this real quick. All right, the economic calendar. So very quickly, we don't have, it's the first week of the month. It's March, which means automatically we should be thinking NFP, right? That's the first Friday of each month. But let's just take a look at any other reports that may be in the way. So you have what? These are already out, all this stuff today for the euro and the Australia rate decision, so not going to worry about those. So tomorrow there's European Consumer Price Index. These are not major market movers, although the pound and the euro have started to make some interesting moves, but I believe it's dollar related. So we still haven't had any good trades in that area. Canadian, we have GDP annualized. That's tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Again, not a big number. For the U.S. on the 3rd, we have at 8:15 a.m. the ADP employment change. That's usually a hint of what is to come as far as NFP. So it could move markets, but again, even NFP or any FOMC meeting that we have not really been major market movers, except for Chairman Powell. He spoke like a week ago, and he got the sell-off going. So because he made some comments and then it recovered because of some other comments he made. So you got to be careful when this guy speaks, okay? And we have him speaking on the 4th at 12:05 p.m. Okay, right, which is Thursday. So you got to watch out for this guy. All right, if he throws in any surprises, something that the market wasn't expecting, it can change things quickly. And as we know, the S&P and NASDAQ have not been, they've been kind of all over the place. So they could be in a topping situation, right? All you need is a guy like this to come out and send things, going in one direction. So be careful, be aware. Also, on Friday, there it is, non-farm payrolls at 8:30 a.m. So non-farm payrolls, as you all know, is the most important, probably scheduled economic report next to an FOMC meeting, right? And all eyes will be on that. So if there are any surprises, it can move all the markets in a dramatic way. You need to just be aware that it's coming out. It's usually not a good idea to be taking trades right before NFP. Now, like I said, in recent times, NFP and, like I said, FOMC meetings have not led to any major market moves. I'm talking like, there was a time when the euro would move 200 pips in a matter of 5 minutes, which is a lot, for 5 minutes. I'm not exaggerating. When something like NFP would come out. So just something to keep in mind. It can affect, stock swing trades and stuff like that. Very short-term stuff. All right, so let me say hello to everyone in the chat. Shayshank, good to see you. DJ, hey, nice to see you. You guys from India, man, again, I have to give you a lot of credit for coming in at 3 a.m. Indian time. Hey, Michael, good to see you. HS and Mario, hey, good to see you all. Paul, all right, cool. So I'm gonna get to this stuff in the chat here momentarily. Let's run through Bitcoin real quick. Oh yeah, and by the way, real quick, if you'd like to learn more about GreenBridge, if you're new, you can click on the Show More section of this video and below this video, and all the links and all the information about our free trial and everything is there. Okay, about our signal service and all that stuff. You can see all that stuff there, so I don't have to spend time talking about it. All right, cool. Hey, Alice, nice to see you. All right, so let's get into it. Now, there's two things I want to address with Bitcoin. For one, let's talk about the buy signals. We had a buy signal that we sent out on Friday evening, which was based on this right here, okay? Now, that never became active until today. And we had some questions about the stop getting taken out and if that basically took the credibility or took the, the emphasis off the buy signal. Was the buy signal no longer in play as a result of the stop getting taken out? And the answer is no. The buy signal still stays in play even if the stop is taken out. If the trade was never activated and the stop price was touched, it doesn't change anything really as far as the entry. Okay, the stop is to protect against risk once we're in the trade. So, that's really kind of just like only a reference point. Before the trade is active, the stop doesn't really mean anything. Okay, it's only after that the trade is active now, right? So my point is, if you're looking at a trade idea and the stop gets taken out first, it doesn't mean that the buy stop is no longer active. Okay, especially, but you have to look at the context of the situation, which is the key thing here. Okay, the context of the situation was we had a pin bar, okay, which closed yesterday, Sunday, at like 7 p.m. Eastern time, and that pin bar was actually another buy signal at a much better price. Now that was a tough time. I wasn't in front of a computer. I couldn't send the trade out. Okay, but that was a trade, that was a buy signal in Bitcoin, at that time. So there were basically two buy signals in this thing, since Friday, right? You had Friday evening and then there was yesterday evening, the two buy signals. So that's a good sign, right? If your second buy signal is showing up pretty much in the same area, especially if it's within that 45K support area, because it's basically in that area, right? This is the 45K support, that area right there. So if you have two signals developing like that, the buy stop is still good, okay? And all the orders that would go along with that are still valid at that point. Now, this is a nice higher low formation. There's a lot of confusion. Some people aren't really excited about taking this trade, and that's fine. You don't have to take every trade. If you don't like something about the trade or you're suspicious because it may not make that higher high, there's nothing wrong. You don't lose money missing trades, okay? You lose money by taking too many trades. People think it's the other way around. They think more trades are better or more is better, and that's not the case at all, especially when it comes to timing markets. So we do have the higher low. In theory, it should go for the higher high, meaning it should go for 57K as opposed to 37K. But what if this fakes out? Here's where the challenge is. This could be a broader wave for beginning, all right? Now, this is when it comes to Elliott wave, and people can have different wave counts and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of subjectivity involved, and there's really no right answer. The market will provide the right answer at some point. Now, the idea behind Elliott wave is to just kind of give us a sense of what is more reasonable to expect, but you have to constantly adjust. So if 5 waves are complete, I'm counting from the March low, which is back here, to the 57K peak. That's a broad wave 3, okay? And inside of that wave 3, I can count 5 waves, right? And this would be the 4th wave right here. And then this move off that 33K area was wave 5 of the 3, which completed at 57K. Now that we have a wave 3 complete, we are likely in a broad wave 4. Broad wave 4 means we can be in a consolidation, but a very broad one, which this could be the very beginning of it. Wave 4s, if we're in that type of consolidation at this magnitude, it can linger for 3 to 6 months, maybe longer. We saw the previous wave 2, before this 3, was 2 years long. Okay, so you have to keep that in mind. A lot of these people that are watching these small time frames have no idea how to place these magnitudes. So, it could be a few months, it could be longer. There's no way to know exactly how long the consolidation will be. Look at gold, okay? And then gold is a good example. I keep bringing it up because if you want a good example of a really nasty wave 4, this is it right here. Okay, since August, what are we now in March? So what is that, 8 months? And this thing has been in a wave 4 and it's pushing the lows still, right? This thing's at 1723. At the August peak, no one was calling for 1700 gold. everyone was calling for 3,000 gold. Okay, that goes to show you. Even the experts, oh, he's a gold expert. Oh, he visits the mining facilities and blah, 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 blah. Great. Why wasn't he calling for 1,700 if he was such an expert? Okay, no one knows. That's the thing. It doesn't matter how much expertise you have. There's a high element of randomness, a very high element of randomness in the markets, and this is what gold wanted to do. Okay, for whatever reason, we don't have to. It doesn't matter the reason. People want to know. Well, why? Well, why? Logic means nothing. Okay, because logically this thing should be at 3,000. Especially if you consider the whole inflationary situation and blah, 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 right? So you keep taking out supports. The point is Bitcoin can do something like this. Now, is gold bearish? Well, no, gold's not bearish because look at the bigger picture. It's just pulling back into a support area. In fact, this is a very attractive area for longs, but there's no setup. And we've been talking about, you know, buying the gold miners and all that stuff. And many of our members have invested into the gold miners. But you can't keep putting money in when it does stuff like this. All right, so like I'm all in. I have my wheat and precious metals, and that's it. I'm not going to keep putting on more and more and more if gold keeps going lower and lower and lower. Now, if we have an extreme situation where we test 1650, I will make an exception at that point to add to inventory. But that's it, okay? Otherwise, you get too big, and this thing can start to test your margin call tolerance, okay? Meaning you're too big. If you're using leverage, this thing can tap you out, you know, through a margin call, and that's definitely not what you want, right? You have to be very careful. That's why strategic sizing with inventory, there has to come a point where you have to stop putting on more and more, right? So we've reached that point with gold. And my point is I bring this up with Bitcoin because Bitcoin can do something like that in a broad wave 4. It's hard to believe, but no one believed it with gold either. So just something to keep in mind there. Now, that does not mean we're going to avoid Bitcoin and we're not going to take Bitcoin trades. Like I said, we're long here, but we're going to be a little more conservative with our targets. And if we see problems develop, meaning, you know, we see a sell signal show up or something like that, we'll be much quicker to make an adjustment as opposed to just letting it, you know, let the market figure it out. We'll be a little quicker because we have to adjust expectations. This thing may not make that new high. Now, in that regard, I sent out Uniswap, Uni, okay, for that reason, because look, Uni is doing a similar thing, and a lot of these altcoins are going to follow. So this is an example of, you know, if Bitcoin agrees or Bitcoin has a setup and you're interested in an altcoin, that would be the time to take your altcoin swing trade, not on its own. Okay, this swing trade depends on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin fails, this thing will fail, because they do not trade on their own. Now, Alice had mentioned that there's some news or something can come out with this thing that will really get this thing going with Binance. Okay, that's a unique situation, and that's a very particular thing to this coin and Binance. Okay, that's fine, and that's a possibility. But as far as trading on its own on the average, it doesn't. None of these things do, okay? So now, in that regard, let's take a look at Cardano. I had a question about Cardano. Someone had asked about it in our free chat room and saying, hey, you know, what do I think? Because it's been Bitcoin pulled back and this thing hasn't. Okay, so that's a sign of relative strength, right? And a couple of these coins, right, and Cardano is one of them, have a higher tendency to at least try to do their own thing. That's what this thing is doing, and that's good. Nothing wrong with relative strength. Okay, I like something that could trade on its own. That's why I prefer a lot of stocks, because they don't need the S&P to do something, right? The thing is, you're consolidating right now. If Bitcoin fails, right, I would be expecting this thing to pull back to supports. So here's the thing. Where are the supports? Well, you have one around here somewhere. Here, let me highlight that. You have one around here, basically $1. What is this thing at right now? This thing's at 129. Wow, unbelievable. So I would be looking for, you know, pullbacks to that dollar area would be an attractive place for a new long. You also have this area here, 81 cents. Those are your levels for this thing, which means right now, this is a tough spot to be buying it. Even though it can do its own thing and it could go higher, the risk is just, you know, I have to buy it here and risk at least 30 cents, at least minimum 30 cents, maybe even 50 cents to make how much? You know, this thing's making, it's on its highs. So it can turn. There's really no way for me to know unless I do a projection, and you can't rely on projections. They're just reference points, right? So I don't like things on their highs. I prefer to buy that pullback, and we just don't have that right now. Compare this to something like Uniswap, right, which makes more sense. Uniswap, we can define the risk clearly, and it's following Bitcoin, right? So that's the difference there. So that's ADA and Bitcoin and Uniswap. So that's that section. Now, I'm going to get to your chat here in a moment. Let me just jump over to the stock market real quick. I'm trying to move quickly here. I don't want to spend a lot of time like I do on stuff, and then I don't get to answer everyone's questions. So look at the NASDAQ. Okay, look at this situation. We had that nasty sell-off right on, what was that, Thursday? Was that this candle here, right? That nasty candle. Maybe that was Friday. And that threw a lot of people off. I think that whole situation was based on the Powell comments, or was it the day before? I don't know. But the point is, they're talking about interest rates going up, right? The bond market and this and that, and the stock market, sold off and blah, blah, blah. And look where we are now. Okay, this thing's up 377 points. So we exited our UVXY calls. I got out of them because this market's wasting too much time. And with those calls, especially now that they're front month, we can't afford to have this thing be fooling around. The premium will go to zero really fast, right? So we had to recoup what we could, and that was that. Now, am I still interested in UVXY? Yeah, but we're going to have to be like up here somewhere for one. And I'm probably, I don't like to do it, but I'm probably going to have to look at June calls, and probably closer to the money, like June 12 or something, maybe even June 10 calls. Okay, again, that's a very aggressive trade. I warned people about it originally, but we'll see if we get the failed high, okay, on this market. But right now, on a day like today, no reason to get involved in something like that. And those calls are just going to get hammered. Those premiums are going to get hammered in a situation like this. Okay, great. This was, the other day on that red candle, that was a good time for buy signals, or the day after, buy signals as far as swing trades go. Now, real quick, so let me show you, let me just go to the S&P real quick, right? Look at the S&P. Now, I talked about this in the chat room as well, right? We were testing these lows, but it's a higher low. So this market really isn't finished, going higher yet. And if there's any type of inflationary pressure, this thing is probably going to make that higher high. So based on this information, we have to be okay with still looking for longs, but we don't want to get overexposed, right? So there may be many long signals. Not a good idea to take them all. You pick a couple that you like, that you really like. Maybe the stock or whatever it is, or maybe it's a cheaper stock and you like the reward risk. Whatever it is, you can't take them all. All right, and they're not all going to go. You may pick the one that doesn't go. It's possible. All right, but if the market is very supportive, even if the stock is not highly correlated to the S&P, buying the broader market being bought can't hurt. Okay, let's take a look at something like CGC. So this is an example. This stock doesn't exactly follow the market, but look, it's starting to turn, right? It's starting to turn a bit, and it never took out this low over here, this 31.5 low. So that's a nice little possibility. How about Groupon, GRPN? Someone had mentioned this. Look at this. Man, I called this one like 2 weeks ago. This was a long. You could see the signal, right? That was a signal I sent out right there at 36.50. Target 3 was 43.50. This thing is at 57.31. Groupon. All right. No one saw that one coming. But the thing is, we were long, right? And now someone was in this. I think Christian had this. And his question is, if you're still in it, what do you do? Well, you let this thing run, right? And you manage it now by putting a trailing stop. So in this situation, now it's not a bad idea. Like, so you have 1/3 of the position. Maybe you sell half of that or something, right? I mean, yeah, so it's going to be smaller and smaller, but why not take some money off the table if you're still in at such a great move? That's number one. This thing's up 13 points today. If you want to trail this thing, you put the stop here, right? Two candles behind the high. Well, this is one candle, but this candle is going to be closed very soon. So basically, tomorrow your stop will be at 35.44. Okay, if tomorrow makes a higher high, then your stop will go to this low right here. Okay, now these are steep candles. Your stop will go here, right, to this low right here. So when you're dealing with steep candles like that, if it goes to your stop, you're giving back a significant portion. Okay, and but so at the same time, that allows the market to go further if it wants to, and you're still in. But if it turns and taps you out, you give back a decent portion of your profit. So that's the trade-off, right? That's why it's a really good idea to utilize both methods. Don't just use a trailing stop. Take some profits off the table at highs or at predetermined targets, right? I mean, target 3, 43.50, right? We locked in a nice 2.1 reward risk on that, and this thing is ridiculously higher. But hey, I'm just happy making the good reward risk. I don't care how much higher it goes. Once I'm out, right? It's none of my business after that. So just wanted to mention a couple of those there. So yeah, and the other one I was looking at real quick was FCell. This one, it started out earlier, it wasn't so good looking earlier, and now it looks good again, but I didn't send this one out. I do like the location though, so this may have some room to run. Like I said, a lot of stocks may look like this, so you can't take them all, right? That the market's going to have to stay supportive, and the market may not make the higher high. That's something you have to consider. The S&P is trying, okay? It's a great move today, but it has yet to prove itself, right? So this is a good start. We have to see how the rest of the week unfolds. Remember, we're going into NFP. What if this thing stops at this previous high in the mid-39s and fails again, right? So just have to keep that in mind. And you can't get caught up in all the hype and all the celebration and all the other nonsense when, the news will see something like, oh, the S&P's up 100 points today. The market's going to go up forever. Great news because blah, 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 right? You can't pay attention to any of that stuff. It means nothing. This was setting up. The news comes out and they point out and this and that, but it's human nature to try to connect something to logic. Doesn't apply in the markets. The faster you can disconnect yourself from that thought process, the better. All right, but it's human nature, so it's not easy to do. All right, let's talk. So I talked about gold. I pretty much covered everything. All right, so let me get to the questions now. All right, and I appreciate everyone's questions in the chat. By the way, again, if you're new to GreenBridge, please, if you want to know more information about us, click on the Show More button on the bottom of this video, and you'll see our links and how to get to our free trial and all that other stuff. Okay, and also signing up for Trade of the Week and everything. All right, so let's see what we got here. Mario asks about, can you check ADA? Okay, so, right. So I mentioned that earlier, Cardano. And as far as next inflection point, the thing is, it's got a high in place. I would have to do a projection, which I'm not going to do right now. But, I mean, just looking at whole numbers, I would think the 150, 160 area would be an inflection point. But again, I have to check, so don't quote me on that. That's what I'd say about that. But more importantly, it's the support levels that are key. If you're in something like this, I mean, at this point, you have some inside bars. There's really not a whole lot to do here if you're in it. You just let this thing ride until it starts taking out daily lows, like this one here at $1.15. Is that the low? Yeah, $1.15. Right, that's basically a minor support right in there. So you start taking that out, maybe you want to take some more profit off the table or something. Hopefully you've locked in something along the way in this type of situation. I know a lot of people are in this because it's been talked about for a long time. Definitely a good area to be taking something off the table. That doesn't mean you take in your whole position, but take something. Okay, Shayshank. Okay, thanks, Shayshank. He always gives me these nice compliments. Thank you, I appreciate that. Paul. It would be nice if you could have a brief look at VXRT. Okay, so let's take a look. VXRT. So I guess this is one of those short squeeze stocks, right? Like GameStop and AMD, not AMD, AMC, and that whole group. So let's talk about where it is right now. Now, the fact that this is one of those short squeeze stocks, it takes away from the trend. Like, it puts a lot less weight on the trend. We can't rely on the trend because it's short squeeze, which means it's only in play for the moment. Now, as far as a setup off of a location, let's see where we are and let's see what kind of potential it offers. So you have support at 570. resistance around 840, right? That's what you're looking at right now. There's a little minor higher low here at 693. So in this situation, I mean, you have an inside bar. If you take out this inside bar high at 762, so you figure you have to give it a little room. So like maybe 780 or maybe even $8, 8 even, okay? Your higher low will be established and this thing will be trying to go higher. What's your risk at that point if you buy it at $8? Well, you can put your stop below this low at 693. You figure it's going to be 650. So you're looking at maybe $1.50 of risk. Can you make, you know, $1.50 back and something like that? Yeah, it's within reason. But this squeeze situation, you can't, since the squeeze situation is out of play now, you can't depend or rely, oh, it's going to do something like this again. Probably not. But, you know, it is within reason to maybe see a portion of that, like maybe 1/3 of it. So that would take you to like, you know, one here, right? 12. So maybe this thing can make it to the 12s. All right. So if that's the case, you're buying it around 8. You're risking about $1.50, maybe $2 to try to reach maybe 12. The reward risk makes sense if this thing can, you know, get its act together and start moving. Again, just keep in mind, you know, its average. Look at its average movement over time before the short squeeze stuff, right? Look at its average movement. It spends a lot of time doing nothing. I mean, from October to like throughout December, it was just not really doing a whole lot. Look how small those candles are. So just something to keep in mind. So if you can get, like I said, you can do at least 1.5 to 1 reward risk or something like that. That would make sense. Okay, so other than that, it's not a bad setup. I mean, you know, it does fit the criteria. Okay, so let's see what else. So thanks for asking, Paul. All right, cool. Oh, thanks, DJ. Yeah, yeah, DJ's right. I mean, you do need, you know, some people, like it's funny, someone was emailing me and saying that, you know, they want to just spend a short period of time and this and that, and we charge too much money. Too much money. I wanted to say, you know, if you think our prices are expensive, you're in the wrong game, because we're like a fraction of what everyone else charges for on a monthly basis. You know, we're looking at between what, $30 and $50 a month between the two packages, and people are charging $150 a month per month, which is ridiculous, and you get a lot less. Anyway, so you do need to spend time to really get a sense of how our strategies work. And now guys like DJ have been around a while, you know, guys like Alice and people like Irina, and they've been around, you know, at least a year, and they're much better off for it because they've seen a lot of different scenarios. They've seen how we've managed, you know, in a lot of different scenarios, both from an investment perspective and from a swing trade perspective. So anyway, yeah, thanks, DJ. So Gabriel, oh, good to see you. Okay, so DJ, one of our members on Saturday asked, what do you do as if they have UVXY stock and don't want to get into options? Oh yeah, you know what? DJ, I saw that question. Actually, I think that question was from Friday, and I thought Andrew answered it, but I guess not. So if you own UVXY outright, right, you don't have the options, because we bought the options on it, and you own this thing outright, I mean, this thing is right now at $8.42, you know, and when we were calling this thing, I don't know where that person is in from, but I'm going to assume maybe around $10 or something like that. I mean, what do? You know, the market's going higher, this thing's going to go lower. So you can bang out of it, take the loss, or, you know, give it another chance and see if that market peaks. But, you know, this thing basically works its way to zero. I mean, that's what this thing does. That's why it's a very risky instrument, not really meant for long-term holding. So the proper thing to do would be to bang it out and take the loss. Or, you know, if you have a little spike like this and you have a chance to maybe get out for break even or something, just get out, because the market is not showing the right signs. Remember, this trade was very aggressive to begin with. There was no short signal, and we were basically taking short positions anticipating the top. So it was a very contrarian and very counter trend type of trade, which again is very risky. I mean, chances are it's going to lose unless, you know, if we're right and the market sells off hard, then it's a nice payoff. But otherwise, you're looking at a loss, right? I mean, we were very clear on that. So you have to treat the shares the same way. You know, if you want to give it a little bit more of a chance, but the way that the stock market's looking today, I don't know. If this momentum continues, it's going to maybe at least test the highs. If it tests the highs, this thing's going to have no choice but to go lower. All right, so just something to keep in mind. So thanks for asking that. Okay, cool. MZ, hey, good to see you. Okay, Isaac, BAT. Okay, so basic attention token, BATUSD. Okay, so again, so this is going to be a Bitcoin follower here, kind of like the Uniswap, kind of like, you know, Blink and all those other ones. So in this situation, look, this was the buy signal right here. So like I said, these things, you can't really rely on them on their own. Bitcoin needs to agree. So since Bitcoin showed two buy signals between Friday and yesterday, taking a pin bar break high is okay, you know, as a swing trade. Now again, we're not going to call these all. I mean, you know, if I call Uniswap, there's no way I'm going to call Link, Uniswap, BAT, and there's no way I'm going to call all of them because it's all pretty much the same trade, right? But in this situation, since Bitcoin agrees, even buying it now, right? Even if you want to get into this thing now, you just took out these highs here. What is this? This high is 56 cents, right? So you need Bitcoin to follow through. If Bitcoin follows through, this will probably follow through. But what's the risk is the question. If you're taking it as a swing trade, the risk is the low here, which is what, 43 cents, around there. So probably, and you have this low over here, which is what, 39 cents. So you're looking at about, I'd say, to be safe, 39 cents, maybe even 38.5 cents, something like that. That's your risk. That's kind of, you know, it's kind of far from where we are here, and this thing's sort of range bound. So yes, there's a buy signal in place, but you're highly dependent on Bitcoin. So if you're willing to take that risk and Bitcoin follows through, then, you know, this thing should start taking out its highs and you should see the higher high. If Bitcoin fails, okay, especially if this thing is fooling around this level here, which is what, in the 60s, low 60s, if it's fooling around there and Bitcoin gives a sell signal, then you should probably make an adjustment or reduce your risk because this thing is probably going to be range bound at that point and it's likely to go test the middle or the low again. So again, that's from the swing trade perspective. I'm not a big fan of swing trading these because they're so dependent on Bitcoin and it's all one big Bitcoin trade. I prefer more of the portfolio management or the you know, the inventory method. And in those situations, again, you can just time it by buying little bits and pieces at any price, but put more weight on them when you're testing lows, okay? And you're not testing the low right now. So this, you know, if you're in it, there's really nothing to do. If you're not in it, then, you know, you can take a small bite as far as an investment goes and then see if it tests lows again if Bitcoin fails. And, you know, that would be give you another opportunity to add another portion. Keep in mind, you must have a strategic plan in advance. You can't say, well, I just feel like buying some today. Then whenever, then I feel like buying some. No, you must have a plan. The plan must be something like, I'm going to buy, you know, $50 worth today. And then if it pushes the 40-cent low, I'll buy $100 worth, right? Because I have a target of, I have a goal of investing $500. So I'm going to keep buying bits and pieces until I reach my $500 goal, and then I stop until we reach an extreme price or something like that. You have to have a plan like that in place. Otherwise, if you just do it by feel, you'll get too big. It's just human nature. And if you're too big, you're then at the mercy of the market. So that's how I would treat BAT right now. And a lot of these altcoins are going to be in the same situation. Okay, cool. So thanks for asking about that. So let's see, Kev. Okay, hey, no problem. So Paul, XSN USD. Let's see, what is that? XSN USD. StakeNet. All right. So that's new name for me. I'm not familiar with that one. There's so many of these coins. So it's an interesting situation. So I guess this thing came out not too long ago. I don't have a lot of price history on this thing. On Bitfinex, maybe there's another. Let me just check XS. Let me just check. See if there's any other exchanges. It's for more price history. XSN USDT. No. It's all Bitfinex. All right, no problem. Okay, so here's the thing. It's a relatively new coin, it looks like, and it's got a lower high right here, right? That's not a good start for it. And it's trying to consolidate here. and you have this buy signal developing here, right? You had this inside bar develop yesterday, and it took out that high today. So there is a buy signal. I don't know what the story is with this one as far as fundamentals go, but technically you have a potential higher low relative to this low that was put in here on in January there. But the question is, does this hold? So you can measure risk as far as a swing trade goes. You can measure risk from this higher low at 25 cents. If it goes below 25 cents, you should probably bang out of it and take the loss. Or, if you want to hold it to zero, I mean, that's up to you. Again, maybe you believe in the fundamentals. I don't know. But as far as the swing trade goes, that's where the risk is defined. As far as investing, here's one thing about these altcoins, and I've mentioned it before. These are not exactly the best investment grade vehicles. Now, there are some, like Alice mentions BNB, and I to his argument, BNB works hard to provide value for their coin, right? There's all these programs and things they have going on, so that makes it worthwhile to buy their coin. Okay, fine. So those are some fundamentals that at least make some sense when it comes to investment grade. Like when we look at stocks, we want stocks that pay a dividend. We want stocks that have a good business model, right, to invest in. Stocks that aren't going to go out of business tomorrow, right? Stocks that are pretty solid. There's plenty of those stocks. So when it comes to these coins, most of them don't have anything. You don't know what their balance sheet looks like. There's no public recourse. There's nothing. There's no oversight on these things. They can say and do whatever they want. So that's not good from an investment perspective, right? They can just basically take your money and it goes to zero, and you're like, oh, well, it was a gamble anyway. Right? That's not cool. So that's what I have to say about investment grade. So these are really short-term oriented for now. Unless it's something like Ethereum. Okay, even then, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they are higher risk instruments, but at least they're established. Okay, compared to something like this. So that's that. So I hope you find that helpful. And look, at some point, maybe they'll have the squeeze. Everyone will go nuts and they'll say, oh, stake net, for some reason. And the thing will run to some ridiculous number like we've seen with some of these coins. But that's a lottery ticket, right? And a lot of these people, they make all this money with a lottery ticket, and then they think that they actually know what they're doing, but it was just a random thing. So, if you throw some money, so one thing we like to do as far as coins like these, you throw in $100 or whatever, right? $100 worth. And if it works out, if that $100 turns into a couple of thousand, hey, that's a home run, right? You take your money. But people aren't satisfied with that. They want to, they want to make $100,000. But in order to do that, you need to take a lot of risk, okay? Like HS's brother. So, when you throw in big money, you'll make big money. But can you risk that big money? A lot of these things are not worth that risk. So keep in mind, that's the mentality you have to work with these things, okay? And the charts aren't going to be that helpful when it comes to long-term investing. All right, so that's my rant on that. Okay, so Kev, I made my first UVXY second group of calls. Okay. Oh, made on the first. Right, Kev. Right. Well, the first one that I sent out, actually, there was a profitable period, right, on that first pullback that we had, and those UVXY calls had doubled or tripled, and I told people to take something off the table, and if you didn't, gave it all back, right? So that's the thing with those. Talk about gambling instruments. I mean, UVXY is definitely a gambling instrument. So, but okay, cool. Thanks for sharing. I ask annoying questions about the difference between, no, Kev, you know what? There's nothing annoying about that. If you're not clear on something or you'd like some more detail, look, we're here to answer all levels of questions, right? So we're not annoyed by questions. It's a good question to ask. I mean, when it comes to Elliott wave, there's a lot of subjectivity, and Andrew may count waves differently than I count them. It doesn't mean someone's right. It doesn't mean someone's wrong. He may be looking at a bigger picture. He may be looking at a smaller picture, or vice versa. So I go by my count. He goes by his count. And that's the way you have to be. It's not like an ego thing. It's like if you can't rely on your own decisions or your own analysis, then you're not going to have confidence. So when you're brand new, okay, I understand, but I've been in this for more than 20 years. If I can't rely on my own analysis, then what am I doing here, right? So I have to stick to my own things. And can I be wrong? Sure. I can be wrong. But this is not a matter of being right or wrong. This is a matter of managing risk, right? People get mixed up and they think it's about being right or wrong. Oh, you're right, you're going to make money. If you're wrong, you lose money. No, it's about how well you manage the risk, right? Because you're going to be wrong. There's no question. We're dealing with a random environment. So that's what you have to keep in mind. Anyway, so thanks for bringing that up. All right, so let's see what else we got here. Okay, DJ, gold is testing my patience. Okay, cool. Yeah, so DJ, gold, like I said, has been very tough, and that's why I've stopped. I'm not going to put on anymore. I'm all in, right? Gold has to figure itself out here. I don't like the way it's behaving, but at the same time, I mean, let's take a look at a weekly gold real quick, right? Weekly gold, and this is what people need to realize, right? Because if you ask someone that watches, 4-hour charts, they're going to tell you gold is in a bearish trend. But as you can see here, this is not a bearish trend, right? There's nothing bearish about it. In fact, we're at the most attractive prices to be buying gold. This is the lowest point of this consolidation, which is a wave 4. So, and this is why I keep bringing this up. Bitcoin can do something similar. So if Bitcoin does something like this, you need to understand how to trade this environment. Not you, I mean, you pretty much know, but yeah, it is testing patience. And if you get too big, a situation like this can margin you out of your positions, right? Because no one, I mean, did I expect gold to go to 1700? No. I figured gold would hold at least the 1760 support, but it broke that. And when I see it at 1730, I'm like, it shouldn't be here. So someone had asked about gold about a week ago, because he was saying that if it went to 1650, it would probably be too uncomfortable. If you're in that situation, it's not a bad idea to reduce risk if it's pushing lows. Like I said, if it broke 1730, which it has, instead of putting on more, you take the loss on some. You just get rid of some so you're lighter. And if this thing goes lower, now it's less loss to deal with, right? It's okay to average out and take some losses in these situations until the thing stabilizes with the plan of putting it back on. So you don't have to blow out your whole position, but just lighten up so that you don't become a slave or at the mercy of the market, okay? Again, it's all about controlling risk. Nothing wrong with reducing position size, as an adjustment to this situation, or you can even consider buying puts, put options in maybe the mining stocks that you're in. What if you're in, wheat and precious metals and you want to protect yourself, or NEM or GDX? You can buy a put or something like that, right? Or maybe a couple of puts as insurance. If the market turns, you get out of those puts and you take a loss, because you're going to have to take a loss on them, right? Especially if you buy a couple of months out. So just a couple of things to consider there. All right, so thanks for bringing that up, DJ. Just hang in there with that. Joe, what do you think of Qualcomm? Okay, so Qualcomm. So Qualcomm's a market stock, right? And here, let's go back to the daily chart. Qualcomm is going to be should be more responsive to a strong market or a weak market, right? Like the NASDAQ. So Qualcomm has been trying, it's been sort of weak recently. And you have this situation where it took out this support, which is, 141? And it's trying to turn around now. This is actually a failed low because it's gone lower, but it's turned around, right? You have an inside bar on Friday. It took out that inside bar high today. So there's a buy signal in Qualcomm. The thing is, if you're interested in Qualcomm as a swing trade, the problem is, how far is this thing going to go? Is it going to go there? What if the NASDAQ turns, because I'm not very optimistic. Yes, we have a strong day today, but I'm not very optimistic about the NASDAQ and the S&P going forward, unless they prove themselves. I'm anticipating a failed high somewhere along the way. Okay, so this would be the area right here, 159 area. That would be an ideal area for such a failed high in something like Qualcomm. So for a swing trade, if you want to give it a try, I mean, you can measure your risk here at 134. So yeah, like maybe 134 and a half, 133. And you try to, what's this thing at 139? So you're risking about 5 points. If you can get more than 5 points on a swing trade higher and you start taking your profits there, great. Okay, that's worth a try. But I'm telling you right now, if the S&P and NASDAQ fail, between now and then, this thing is going to go right into the toilet. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. with something like this. That's why I'm not a big fan of these market stocks. I like stocks that have their own variables moving them around, right? You know, like something like CGC. I mean, this thing has been kind of acting sort of like a market stock, but all it needs is some news, right? Someone's buying this, or someone's doing that, or they partnered with this, and next thing you know, it's up $10, right? Something like that. I like that. Or even like Groupon, right? Groupon is what, an earnings play originally, right? I mean, this thing initially got all excited because it had good earnings or something, I think. I don't even know. I don't pay attention to news. But this is what you want to see. Stocks doing this stuff like that. And the market's strong today. This thing was acting relatively strong all along. That's why I called it originally, you know, back here. Anyway, that's what you want to see your stock do. Okay? And this Groupon is not a market stock. So just wanted to compare the two. All right, so thanks for bringing that up. Okay, hey, Rich Trees. Hey, good to see you. Take a look at Salt B. Okay, what is that? Let's see. Is that Salt against Bitcoin? Salt B? Let me see. Oh, wait, Salt B. Oh, no. Salt X Technology Holding. Oh, this must be it here. It must be the stock. Okay, let's take a look at Salt B. Oh, man. So if this is the correct stock, I mean, this thing is vertical today, right? It's up $1.15 today, up at 574. So it's a cheaper stock. What exchange is this on? All right. Oh, okay. So this is what? Is that Swedish? So let's take a look at some levels here, right? The first thing I want to look at is, I mean, the support and resistance. We can argue that since November, right, we have a higher low, made the higher high, and you see this formation that it's developed right here. It consolidated for a number of months. That's kind of like what gold is doing, right? This is sort of like a smaller picture of what gold is doing. So, and this pin bar back here 2 days ago is like where gold is right now. I'm just comparing it because the pattern is very similar, but just gold doesn't have the setup. Anyway, this thing had the pin bar. This thing's on its way. It's trying to blow right through this consolidation. At this point, you can't do anything with this. Okay, you're chasing it at this point. If you're in it, great. If you're in it, you let it ride, see if it breaks out. Okay, because you're still inside the range. You're near the range high. So this is a bad place to enter, but a good place to let it run if you're in. I would look for that breakout. As far as, you know, what would be the next place to get in if you're not in? Well, you can try playing the breakout, but, you know, that's tricky, right? I would want to see some kind of continuation pattern develop, or it breaks out and then pulls back to this old resistance, which is what, 619? So it needs to break out first. That would be the more conservative thing to do, and then let it pull back, and that gives you a much better reward risk and place to, you know, to take a trade. So it requires some patience in those situations. You know, if you want to try to trade the breakout outright, the thing is, where do you measure your risk from? Right? I mean, you could try the middle of the range, but it's very random. You could look at the low of the range, which is high risk, because if it goes there, you're going to take a big loss, right? Or, you know, or you could get in on that breakout, and if it turns right away, like you see a red candle develop, like the next day, you get out and you take the loss, right? You could look at it that way as well. Again, I'm looking at it from a very short-term oriented swing trade perspective. As far as investing, you know, like I say with the other ones, you take your small bite and you wait for better prices, right? If it goes, hey, at least you have a piece of it. That's the whole idea, without getting too big too fast. Oh, so Rich says it's a renewable energy stock. Okay, cool. So yeah, I wasn't familiar with that one. There's a lot of other ones, like what, like Sunrun. Remember Sunrun? That one's starting to perk up a bit. There was Sundance Energy. Remember that? Is that S? What was Sundance Energy? SNDE. How's that one doing? I called this one a while ago. Man, this one's going nowhere. Anyway, looks interesting, right? Looks similar. I called this trade nowhere. Nowhere. It's garbage. But it's not really doing anything. All right. So sometimes you have to be patient with these. Okay, Shayshank wants to see XRP and BCH. All right, so let's take a look. XRP. Let's start with that. So, you know, we haven't been a big fan of Ripple, you know, because just too much hype, a lot of nonsense in this thing. Now, as you can see, it does have its movements. Now, it's pulling back. It's pulled back here. Today gave you this green candle situation, obviously a response to Bitcoin. Took out that previous high and basically you can consider this like a follow-up buy signal, kind of like that uni trade. All right. The thing is, will it follow through? Is it worthwhile? Well, if you like this thing and you want to measure risk, you could measure risk from here, what, 36 cents, around there. So you figure your stop will have to be, again, as a swing trade, your stop will have to be around 35 cents or something like that. And you have to hope that this thing can push this range high at 64 cents. So you know what? All right, the reward risk makes sense if you make it halfway. That's not a bad target area to take something off the table as a swing trade. But like I said, with these, often they're not great swing trade instruments. They're better. You're better off buying and holding like inventory. And so if you're interested in that portion, inventory, at least you're near a low. Okay, so for example, if you're investing $50 at a time, this wouldn't be a bad area to invest $100 because you're near a low, right? You're not near a high. So if this thing pops up a bit, again, even if with inventory, you want to start reducing risk if it could make it up into these, mid 50s into the high or low 60-cent area. You want to be reducing inventory. Take something off the table if you have that opportunity. Okay, that's how I would treat something like that. Again, since it's inventory, you're not going to use a stop, right? That's why the sizing has to be very strategic and careful, because what if it breaks that support and just starts going lower? This thing has not been showing the best trend. It's had some negative news, so this one's one of the riskier ones. This does not have a good looking chart like some of those other ones we looked at. It's definitely not a Cardano, okay? So if that Cardano is a good looking chart. Okay, so BCH, USD. So now again, this one, look, that looks similar, right? Again, we haven't been a big fan of this one. This one should have been doing much better in the light of the Bitcoin rally that we've seen. This thing should have been doing much better. Okay, that's why when it gives it back, man, it gives it back. So this one would be a better swing trade candidate because it moves, right? And it's a much higher price. So I wouldn't really play with inventory on this one. You have the buy signal, again, following Bitcoin. So you have to measure your risk, which at this point would be this low right here. What is that? 432. So you figure on that 430 area. The buy signal is in effect, right? When it took it out here at 485, you're looking at $50, around $50 of risk, something like that. And you're hoping that this thing can get to the middle of the range, okay? Which is around, what is that? It's about $150, 150 points. So that's about 3 to 1. That makes sense if you could make it there. All right. Again, so it's short term, it's speculative. In that case, it makes sense. That's worth a try if Bitcoin follows through. If Bitcoin fails, then you're going to run into problems. Either way, this would be a good target area. Now, let's just say, quick example. Let's say you take this trade. Bitcoin follows through, right? Bitcoin goes and attempts to test the high, and this thing pushes through this mid area, and you sell half of it, and it's still pushing. Let me ask you a question. What would you do? All right. So let's say this. I'll say it again, right? So everyone can follow along. Let's say you buy this thing at 485. All right. You put your stop in place, and Bitcoin makes its run, and Bitcoin hasn't made new highs yet, but it's running, and this thing makes it to this 590 area. So you're up about 100 points. You sell half the position. You still have half the position left, and it pushes through, right? So it looks like this. What do? You can put the answers in the chat, and I'll get to that in a moment. What do you do? Okay, and so let me look at, so DJ wants to see Walmart. Okay, cool. MZ, okay, so I'm going to get to those in a second. I just want to see how people answer that question here for a moment, and then we'll get back. Get away, bro, get away from BTC for sure. It will go deeper like 41K, okay? All right, we'll get to that in a moment. So I just want to see how people answer that question. By the way, if you're new to GreenBridge, please make sure you press the like button if you like the video. Please register for the channel here if you want to get email notifications from YouTube every time I stream. And also check out our website. All the information and links and everything are in the description portion below. So just click on show more and you'll see all that information, okay? The links to get to our site, to register as a free member. You can get trade of the week, all that other stuff. Okay, so Christian says you take something off the table. Gabriel says trailing stop of some sort myself. Okay, good answers. Well, so Christian, but we're assuming that you took something off the table, 100 points higher. So when it runs higher like that and it's still running and there's no sell signal, you let it run and you trail, right? That's just a good habit to be in. You let it trail. Now, at some point, it would be a good idea to put a predetermined target because that's the only way you're going to get near the high. And there's no guarantee you're going to get the high. So it's sort of a random outcome. But at least what's nice is if it takes you out near that high and it turns and it turns to garbage, you'd be so happy that you knocked it out near that high. And how many times do these markets do that, right? In recent time, it seems like everything just keeps going higher forever, but that's not the case, you know. And if Bitcoin goes into a wave 4, we're going to see a lot of false starts, a lot of false breakouts, and a lot of moves that don't go very far. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. That's the average behavior. All right, so thanks for your answers. DJ wants to see Walmart. So WMT. Oh, okay. Now, so Walmart, look, this is a high quality stock, right? You'd never think that from looking at that chart, but we all know Walmart. So maybe they had some negative news or earnings or whatever. I don't know. Doesn't matter. I know they pay a dividend. So as far as the bigger picture goes, the general trend is bullish. But now keep in mind, this is a market stock. And this is weak. I mean, considering where the market is and how the S&P is recovered today, this thing should not be doing this. I mean, it's up $1.43 today, but this thing should not have gotten beaten up like that, okay? Which means it's acting relatively weak, and it took out some supports. So while this is not a bad area for investing, right, this would be an ideal area for a small bite. For some reason, they're hating Walmart for now, okay? So at least you're not buying the high. Imagine if, you know, you're going nuts buying these highs, and then it does this to you. This is why you can't get too big, right? But this is a place that's attractive for inventory. This is what you want to see. It's hated for whatever reason. So that's one place. But and you're fooling around this old resistance, right? New support right back here around 132. So it's a somewhat attractive area. But if the market sells off, right, I would expect this relative weakness to continue, and you may see some lower supports. So just something to keep in mind, okay? Something like this, 117, right? Something like that would be probably another place to consider inventory. Now, eventually the market will recover and this and that, right? And this thing should be in a good position at that point. But right now, there's no sign of stability. All you have is support, right? You have a level and it's trying to turn around, but that relative weakness is very concerning. Obviously, there's a problem. That's what the chart is saying. Okay, until I see price stability in the face of a strong S&P and NASDAQ, this thing should be doing better. Okay, so just something to keep in mind. So thanks for bringing that up. Nuan, CGNX, stocks for a swing trade. Let's see, Nuan, N-U-A-N. Okay, so that one popped. Nice mention. But here's the thing. So that was the support at 42.95. This was nice. Friday, the inside bar would have been the signal there. So now you sort of missed it. This thing is at 46 basically. Now is not the time to buy this thing because now you're chasing it right in the middle. So you have to leave it alone. Here's the scenario. If this thing can pull back and retest that support and give you another buy signal, like a failed low or something, then it would be a good candidate. Because now you're taking a lot more risk. There's no need to when you can find stocks in much better positions. The potential is decent though. I mean, you're looking at testing maybe $50, $51, something like that. And you're at 45 right now. So yeah, I would wait on this one because you're in the middle of the range. So thanks for bringing that one up. Definitely a good one to keep an eye on for the radar. All right, let me see what else we got here. You mentioned Nuan and you mentioned another one. What was the other one you mentioned? Man, I'm slow. CGNX. All right. CGNX. Okay, so very similar situation here. Let's expand this a little bit here. Nice trend. All right, that's pretty clear. Let me see how am I doing with time. All right, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up here momentarily, but we have a few more minutes. So nice trend, no question about that. Hold on, my thing is messing up here. Hold on, let me fix that. There we go. All right, so support is right there, 80.5. This thing's popped off the support. Same situation with like that inside bar, right? Same situation as Nuon, and you're on your way. So you can't. It's not a good idea to chase these, especially when you're going right into this resistance right there. Okay, and obviously other people saw that, and that's why you have that little tail on the candle. So not a good area. So here again, just like Nuon, what you want to see in this is let it pull back, if it can pull back, and give you the double bottom or the failed low. That would be ideal. That would be the time to look for that swing trade again. Otherwise, just leave it on your radar, okay? Because this may go further, but now you're playing the 50-50 game, right? It might not, and you're asking for trouble, right? There's plenty of potential there, but I'd rather get a better level and a better setup relative to just jumping into something because it looks hot for the moment. So thank you. Good. Those are good mentions. Thanks for bringing that one up. Those two up, MZ. DJ. UVXY June 18 call 288. Wow, that's June 18. Okay, that's not too bad. That's not too bad for the June 18 $8 call. Wow, that's cheap. I mean, that's pretty much at the money, right? So that's a nice cheap premium for a decent amount of time. And the market pulls back. See, that's the thing. You don't need the market to pull back that dramatically for those calls to make some money because you have a lot of time on them. That helps out a lot. And you're basically at the money, right? Thanks for bringing that one up. That's the one I'm going to be looking at, especially if this market goes higher. That might be a good one, a good option. June 18. June 18, $8 call. Yeah, I like that. Thanks for bringing that one up. Michael, I'm looking to start adding stocks like Ford, ABBV. And what prices should I be looking for long-term inventory? All right, so Ford, let's take a look. F. Good question. So when it comes to inventory, Michael, or Mikal, I'm not sure how you pronounce your name. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. When it comes to inventory, right, you want to know your levels in advance. And there's a support right there at 938 on Ford. So basically 9.25. That would be an attractive area, and if that's taken out, you're looking at this area here, basically 8.25. So those would be attractive prices for long-term investing, where it would make sense to put on a slightly more inventory. So for example, let's say you're looking to invest $1,000, right, into Ford, and this thing is at $12, right? So you want to invest $1,000, you can split up. That could be 10 $100 purchases. But since you're near highs and the market is possibly at a high, it may be higher risk to invest the full $100 at this price. So you invest $50, right? You buy $50, hey, at least you have a piece of it. If it goes higher, you still have a little piece. It's working for you. But if Ford pulls back, now you're not taking a whole lot of pain, right? And you still have 9 other purchases you have to make. So when you start testing a price like 9.25, now instead of buying $100 worth, maybe you want to buy $150 worth because you're near a low, and you're weighting your average price at more attractive prices as opposed to highs, where everyone likes to pile in at the highs because it's the obvious place. It looks great at those prices. When it's at its lows, right? When it's pushing supports, it will look like Walmart. It would look like that. People don't like that. People get scared, but that's actually the place to be buying more inventory, a larger portion of it, because you're getting great prices. People are banging it out for some irrational reason. Okay, so that's Ford. What was the other one? ABBV. So same situation. These things are at resistance levels. So I mean, as far as inventory goes, when it comes to these things, I don't like resistance levels. If I really like the stock, like I said, I'll take a small. I'll look at my allocation plan, and like I said, if it's $100 purchases, then I will skew that to a smaller amount and say, okay, I'm only going to buy $50 here because I don't like these high prices. I want them lower. So on ABVB, $100 would be a range low, so that's more attractive than where it is right now. Keep in mind, if there's a significant pullback in the market, all these things are going to get hammered. These levels that I'm showing you right now are minor levels. They'll get cleaned right through, okay? If there's a major market pullback. So now in a situation like this, you want to look around like the middle of the range, and you have a gap right here. So that's going to be a point of reference. I would say your next price, if $100 is cleared, is going to be around here somewhere. So that's around $94, right? That's not a huge difference, but that's significant, right? It's worth noting. And then if that's cleared, you're probably looking at this low range here where that higher low came from. In the 80s, like low 80s. Those would probably be the ideal prices. Keep in mind, if this thing makes it back, now this thing may act more in line with the market. If you're looking at prices like that, the market's probably not going to be looking so hot, okay, if it pushes that low. Remember, a lot of these stocks will get pushed by a broader, by the broader market. So, but those would be the attractive prices, okay, for putting on more inventory based, relative to your plan. So thanks for asking. DJ, I know this is bad and you are against shorting individual stocks, but what do you think about shorting Groupon? No, you know what, DJ, it's okay. It's a valid question. Now, here's the thing. So when it comes to shorting individual stocks, as many know, we don't like to do that because of the gap risk. I mean, there's all kinds of risks. I mean, you're better off shorting the index. DJ knows that. When it comes to shorting individual stock, look, I mean, this thing's vertical, and I understand what the temptation is, but the problem is right now, there's no reason, there's no signal. What if this thing opens tomorrow and pushes up another $3 or $4, right? So it's early. If you're going to do it, at least wait for a signal, like a pin bar to develop, or at least a red candle, something, and then that low of that candle getting taken out. It's still very risky. Also, for those that may be new, you don't have to trade both sides of the market to make money consistently. You can stick to one side. There's plenty of opportunity. People give me this question all the time when it comes to Bitcoin. How come you don't short Bitcoin? Blah, blah, blah. There's so much money to be made shorting Bitcoin. Well, we don't need to make any of that money, okay? And as you know, people that tend to trade both sides and trade a lot don't make any money. So I don't know where all that short money, I don't know who's making all that short money. But anyway, the point is you don't have to trade both sides. So this would be very aggressive, and it could be worthwhile. So another situation to consider for something like this, DJ, is when it's vertical like this, you want to find some cheap puts maybe. If you can get some cheap puts deep out of the money to see if it pulls back. I mean, your first support on this thing is back here, like $41. Doesn't mean it'll go there, but even if it goes halfway, it could be worth something. But the more conservative thing to do in such an aggressive situation is to at least wait for a sell signal, okay? But man, that thing, keep in mind, it was acting relatively strong when the market had pulled back the other day. When we were getting that red day on Thursday and everyone's like, oh, we should bang out of this, we should bang out of that. I looked at Groupon and it was barely negative. I mean, there's no reason to make any adjustments to this thing. The market turns around, this thing will find some strength. I don't know it was going to go vertical like that, but I knew it was at least relatively strong, right? And that's all that matters. So just a few things to keep in mind. Shayshank, if buy on setup looking for pin bar, then what will be the stop loss? Okay, so Shayshank, when you have a pin bar, the slightly lower than the pin bar low, okay? You can't put it at the pin bar low because that's a very vulnerable area. A lot of people put it there. So you want to put it lower than the pin bar low by some amount. So for example, let's bring up Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin has the pin bar set up in there, right? And where would the stop go on Bitcoin? So let me make that real big so you can see it. So here's the pin bar, right? You can see I have the pin bar highlighted there, okay? And the low of this pin bar is 43, basically 43 even, all right? So a good idea for a stop would maybe be 42.8, maybe 42.6. You got to give it some room because if this thing fools around a bit. Now, for example, look at this pin bar back here, right? The one we sent out on Friday, this one here. As you can see, price went below the pin bar low, okay? It went below the pin bar low and probably stopped a lot of people out, right? What was the pin bar low here? 44,151. And this thing went as low as 43,021. That's 1,000 points, okay? So this is why you need room between your low and you know, the stop. So, I mean, how many people you think got short or got stopped out or banged it out because it looked ugly at the moment, and only to watch it do this today? It's a very common fake out. So thanks for bringing that one up. Okay, so let me see. We need a new room in the chat. Henry's very aggressive trade room. And we need text message. Yeah, I know, Henry Buffett there. I know, he's been putting some more stuff in the chat recently, which is nice. He has a completely different perspective on things. So it's nice to see what, you know, some of the stuff he's doing. He mentioned on Talking Markets, he mentioned FRX, which is, he likes this one. This is a cheap stock, and he liked it for some fundamental reasons. It's not really doing much yet, but this is, when he mentions something, I put less weight on the technicals, and, you know, because some news comes out, this thing can go berserk, like, you know, like Skills. You all remember Skills. So that's why a chart won't be as helpful for what Henry calls, because he really focuses more on fundamentals. That's why we call him Henry Buffett. Anyway, and he kind of looks like, you know, Warren Buffett's baby brother. So if Warren Buffett had a brother. So that's cool. Thanks for mentioning that. I'll mention that to Henry. I'm sure he'll be entertained. CVLT. All right, CVLT. Let's take a look. Oh, nice. So MZ, you've been calling a few of these here. You keep mentioning these stocks that have similar patterns. Okay, that's cool. So again, it's on its way. Bad time to be getting in, right? The time would have been, and this is tough because there was no signal here. But it would have been the break of this high right here, which is what, 65.5, and this thing is now at 67.05. So now you're sort of chasing it. So again, just like the other ones you mentioned, wait for it if it can give you the opportunity. If it can give you a pullback or some kind of higher low between here and that low price, which is what, 63.78, that would be an ideal place where you can measure risk, and it would be a nice higher low, failed low situation in a broad bullish trend. I mean, the trend is clear. It's a strong stock, okay? CVLT, definitely a good one for the radar. Now, in this situation, like, so why not take it now? You're taking a lot more risk, and what if it fails in the middle here? Taking trades in the middle of this range is like a 50-50 proposition. Now, it may go for the high. In theory, it should go to 72 because higher lows often lead to higher highs. So in theory, it's a reasonable expectation. So you do have that room. So if you want to go for that, you know, what's the reward risk? Well, if you buy this thing tomorrow at the open, let's just say 67.05, and you're going for 71, right? That's maybe $3.50, $4 maybe, and you have to risk, what's the low here, 63? So about $3.50, something like that. The reward risk is slightly over 1-to-1. I'd rather get a better reward risk at a lower price. But if you want to go for that, it's aggressive. The thing that's in your favor here is the trend. Okay, and momentum should follow through. But what if the market sells off? So in that situation too, the reason why we won't call stuff like this is because they require a lot of attention and a lot of adjustments. And we just don't have we're not able to send out the messages fast enough to make such adjustments. So that'd be something you're on your own with. But nice one to bring up. Thanks for bringing that one up. Definitely a good one for the radar. CVLT. I'm going to have to put that one on my radar. Okay. Mahsen. Sometimes I'm bad with these names. QKC against BTC. Let's see. Quark chain. All right, so here's the thing with these. I don't like cross pairs. I'm not a big fan of these because they're a mess. As you can see, this chart is very noisy, right? Which is usually, I mean, obviously it's a fraction of a very small fraction of Bitcoin. So not a good candidate for swing trades. Is this thing trade against the dollar? Let me see, USD. Let's just look at it from the dollar perspective first. Okay, because really the dollar perspective will give us at least a better sense of levels. I mean, look at this thing. For the longest time, this thing was nowhere. And it started to move, right? Made a high of, what is that? 18, just over, but 1.8 cents basically. You tested this old resistance, new support around that 1.21 area, 1.2 cents, that area there, and it's trying to find another leg higher. Again, it may be responding to that Bitcoin situation. I don't like the way this candle looks as far as a long, not a good swing trade candidate because of its noise. So in these situations, if you want to play the inventory game, hey, like I said, you could take a small bite at any price, but you'd want to wait, to take further small bites or a higher weighted small bite. You want to do that around these prices, which is around less than a penny, right? 0.008, that area there. Or, if it breaks out, you can add to that, in this situation. Again, if Bitcoin has that broad pullback, remember, we're expecting a wave 4 in Bitcoin, and I expect that if we get that broad wave 4, similar to gold, a lot of these coins are going to get hammered, all right, because they don't really provide any value. So just something to keep in mind. Why it could be one of these, hey, you throw $100 in and hope for the best. It's a lottery ticket. That's usually the best perspective to have on them, all right, because they're not investment grade. But thank you for bringing that one up. So the chart against Bitcoin is going to be in a similar situation. So again, what was that? QKC, BTC. I mean, it's kind of looks similar in a way, and you have to treat it the same way, like a lottery ticket. All right, Caleb. Oh, the 10-year note, US 10. Is that the right symbol? Let's see. Well, this is the trading view calculation. Okay. So let me see how I'm doing with time. I know I'm running out of time here. Let me see. 1:16. All right, I'm going to give this a few more minutes. If I missed your question, I apologize. Come to our free chat room. A lot of people have been taking advantage of our free chat room, which is what we want. So come by, ask a question there so we can answer it again. I'm going to wrap this up here in just a few minutes. I'll answer a couple more, and then I'm going to have to wrap this up. Otherwise, I'll be here all day. I do appreciate your questions, though, a lot. Thank you for all this participation. So I'll go over US 10. DJ's asking for T. All right, and let's see, Ludus. I'll get to Ludus. Ludus has been with us a while. AVA. Okay, all right, so I'll take a look at those and then we'll wrap this up. All right, so let's start with the bonds. Bonds are important because they can kind of give us a sense of where the broader market's going in terms of interest rates. Now, as we know, bond prices move inverse to the bond yield. So if bond prices go higher, yield goes lower, right? And bond prices goes lower, yield goes higher. Yield means interest rates, right? So if treasury interest rates are going higher, stock market doesn't like that, right? So that means if the bonds sell off, interest rates are going higher. Well, they were selling off the other day, and that's what got the stock market all nervous, right? And that's what we have over here. Now, since then, we have this bullish candle and this inside bar situation. So there's actually a buy signal developing off of a range low on the 10-year note, right? Now, these things, remember, that watching these things move is like watching, a snail painting and then watching that paint dry. So they're very, very slow and uneventful. But with NFP coming out on Friday, they may be a little more exciting. So if the bonds go higher from this point, which this chart is saying, they're likely the bond prices are likely to push higher, because we're looking at prices here, then yields should be going lower, which should be a positive for the stock market. But if this thing sells off for whatever reason, and we take out that low, then we're probably looking at higher interest, which is a negative for the stock market. Another gauge to look at for these situations is the dollar index, right? Look at the dollar index trying to change its tune here, right? With this higher low in place. That low was established with that bond market sell-off, or the higher yields. And look, it's going for this resistance. It hasn't taken it out yet, all right? The dollar is in a bearish trend, but it could be changing. So the bonds will definitely have an effect on that. So I would imagine this week's NFP should maybe give us a better sense, because the Fed uses employment rate to, I guess, they figure it into how they decide interest rates and that kind of thing, right? That's at least that's how the market processes it anyway. So just something to keep in mind there, all right? Watch this resistance on the dollar. If it's cleared That means stronger dollar. That means that's a negative for the stocks. That's a negative for gold. It's negative for a lot of things. If this bearish trend stays intact and we don't take out that support and we start pushing, we don't take out that resistance and we start pushing supports, that's a positive for the stock market. So we have to see how this plays out. But it doesn't help to predict it. The market has to prove itself. Okay, so thanks for bringing that one up. Good thing to keep an eye on. Okay, so DJ is asking for AT&T. So another typically market stock getting beat up. Been in a range for a while. This company's still in business. I'm just kidding. So you're at a support level. Definitely an attractive place for inventory if you like the long-term prospects of this company. $28 and you're fooling around now at $28.10. Right. So this is what a market looks like when it's getting ugly. It's testing support. I wouldn't swing trade this, but as far as inventory goes, not a bad place for a small bite. There's no reversal. There's no reason to buy at the moment. But like I said, it's cheaper, and it could get even cheaper if this momentum continues. Right? You're looking at possibly $26. If it clears that, right, then you're looking at much lower prices. I mean, how much lower can this thing go? Looks like you have that's a pretty significant support around 26. Man, this stock's gotten beaten up. So obviously they got problems. I don't follow this one very closely. So you're fooling around some pretty significant lows. If the stock market has a major reversal, right, and takes some pain, this thing is acting relatively weak. It's not taking out any resistances. So it would be within reason to expect even lower prices in that scenario. So something to keep in mind. You don't want to load up at these prices. Small bites are okay, but be prepared for this thing to test the lower 20s if the stock market goes that way. All right, so just something to keep in mind. Ludus, and then I'm going to wrap this up. Again, and I appreciate everyone's questions here. So come to our free chat room. AVA, right? So AVA USDT. Okay, so this one, again, kind of like Cardano, has been somewhat strong. This is why, we always talk about not chasing, because you get caught in these situations. Everyone gets all excited. Everyone's missing out. The news says it's going to go here and there, and meanwhile you buy the high, right? That's why you want to avoid that. So let's talk about where we are now, and let's talk about support and resistance. You have a support right here, 218. Now this is clearly a bullish trend, and clearly it's responding to Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's trying to give us that bullish signal, and this thing's trying to. So I don't like these as swing trades. And like I said, I picked the uni, for the same reason. They're all moving the same way. They're all doing a similar thing. So this is, again, probably a good candidate for inventory. You're on a pullback right now, so you want to take a bite at 2.5 cents, $2.50 or whatever. Okay, fine. If Bitcoin fails, or fakes out, you're looking at that 218, possibly lower. Okay, those would be the more attractive levels for inventory. This level here, $1.92, so just below $2. Those would be good places to accumulate some, and then see where you are relative to your accumulation plan. And if it starts turning higher, obviously you want to start taking risk off the table once it breaks this high and goes higher. You're probably going to need Bitcoin to cooperate. Now, if Bitcoin is in a wave 4, then I would expect ranges and consolidations and very frustrating times out of coins like this. Same with Uniswap and all them. They don't really trade on their own. Even Cardano will probably be affected by that situation. Okay? So thank you for bringing that one up. There's some perspective there. Remember, with these, use Bitcoin as your guide. Bitcoin is your lead. So I'm going to wrap this up here with Bitcoin. So like you see, Bitcoin has a strong candle. We still have a couple of hours before it closes. But with the higher low in place, I would be anticipating continued bullish momentum for that higher high. But if it fails along the way, which it can do, then that would be more of a sign that we're in that broad wave 4. Wave 4s can unfold in many waves, right? They could be compound waves where you have a leg of 3 followed by a leg of 3 followed by a leg of 5. There's all these different combinations. And this could be your first leg of 3. We don't know. We have to see. But you know, we also have to assume at the same time that the trend is still intact unless it proves otherwise. So if this thing makes that higher high, all those altcoins should behave well. If this thing fails somewhere between here and 57K and starts going to that range, it'd be a good idea to make some adjustments in those altcoins. Okay, so I'm going to leave it at that. Let me see how I'm doing with time here. Okay, so I got to wrap this up. I see some more questions. Let me just read them real quick. Michael says, if you want to invest in gold stock, is it better? So, Michael, as far as that question goes, I prefer, like, it's good to start with one stock and then work your allocation, like figure out how much you want to have invested. Once you reach that, then you move on to the next stock, right? Instead of having a bunch of stocks. Now, since the gold stocks, they generally move together, there's really not much difference between them. Maybe they have some dividend payment differences. I don't know, because I don't follow that. Andrew would probably know. That's a better question for him. But you're basically being exposed to gold. So it's just a good idea to work with one, because basically you're trading gold. Okay. Okay, no problem, DJ. Yeah, look, gold, just have to be patient with gold. Just have to be patient. So now, Senges mentioned something about Bitcoin before. Hold on, I skipped it. Where did that go? He mentioned something about layoff of Bitcoin. Well, we don't know yet, right? Bitcoin may be in that wave 4, but we don't know. We have to let the market decide. That's why I don't get married to any opinions. I see some short-term stuff, some price action. I measure the risk. I go with it. If the market proves me wrong, I'm wrong. I take a loss, and that's it. I adjust. I have no opinions. I make no predictions. Now, of course, we have levels where we can anticipate certain things, but I realize that markets are highly random and that things can change quickly. So if someone says, oh, Bitcoin's going to be at 55K by tomorrow, I never listen to nonsense like that, because no one knows. David, BTC is at 48.5, good for the swing trade. Yeah, so David, that swing trade that we sent out at 48.5, that's still a valid trade. So you have the trade orders for that. It's still a valid trade. Even though it went higher and then pulled back to it, you're still at the entry price. It's still workable. Okay, Christian. Okay, so LI, no, so I'm going to wrap this. I'm not going to look at any more charts. I'm just trying to see if I could get through any quick questions here. Okay, there's Senges. Bro, get away from BTC. Sure, it'll go deeper, like 41K. Well, like I said, maybe not. But there's a buy signal in it right now, and we can't ignore that. Gabriel, trailing stop. Okay, so I'm just going back here. You take something off the table. Right, that was a question I put out. Okay, pal, so REPL, again, come to the free chat for that. DJ, I think everyone needs to be in gold trade. Just DJ, start a gold pumping room and pump gold all day. And then maybe like the Wall Street bets, maybe we can get a short squeeze in gold. Pumping room. Okay, Eligius, Apple. Well, so Apple's a market stock. All right, so again, good question for the free chat, but wherever the market goes, Apple's pretty much going to go. GME, I'm in 100 shares short from 150. Oh, man. Just out of curiosity, I have to look. Okay, you're short from 150? Well, this thing's all, GME is all over the place. So I can't, the chart's not going to be very helpful for that thing. You're playing that short squeeze game, and you're short something that's heavily shorted, that talk about pumping, right? That's what started that whole thing. So if anything, look, if you have a profit in it, looks like you do, take something off the table, because when that thing gets on all the day trader radars, it goes berserk, and you don't want to be caught on the wrong side of that. Because you're definitely on the less advantageous side, like all the hedge funds were. All right, so just something to keep in mind there. You have some green, don't hesitate to take some off the table. You want to give the rest of it a chance? Okay, fine. But that's how you have to play that. You know, if you play like all or nothing, and you say, oh, I'm going to hold this thing to $50, well, you know, when you become really stuck on that opinion, it can cost you a lot of money. So just something to keep in mind. Okay, so thanks for bringing that one up. Okay, cool. All right, I'm just running through the chat here. Okay, hey, no problem, DJ. All right, no problem. DJ, Goldman Sachs and all the others will squeeze gold out of. Right, I'm telling you, DJ, start the pumper room like GME, and maybe we can, you know, maybe we can get gold going. So anyway, all right, everyone, I've been talking a long time, and I have to wrap this up now. If I missed your question or I didn't answer your question, I apologize. Come to our chat room, our free chat room at greenbridgeinvesting.com. Ask the question in there again, and either me or Andrew will get to that question. Maybe not in an instant, but we'll get there, okay? Because we do want to try to answer everyone's questions. If you're new to GreenBridge, please make sure you press the like button. If you like the analysis that I do here, please register for the channel if you'd like to get more email notifications from YouTube, and check out our website, greenbridgeinvesting.com. All right, everyone, thank you all so much for your great participation and your great questions. All right, and I will see you all in the chat room tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your day, and thank you for watching.